I'm Oral Hershiser, and I am on the Blue Review.
Hey, this is Sean Green. You're watching the Blue Review.
Bum, 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 bum. Hello, that's a day off, Bendy, as we welcome you to the Blue
Laser?
Review, presented by LAX for a Friday morning. I'm Marcas Grant. That is Greg Bergman. Be joined by our pal Anthony Witrado in just a bit. What did you do with your night off? I assume it was an earlier bedtime for you.
So it was going to be an earlier bedtime. It did not turn out to be an earlier bedtime because I had to watch the Survivor finale the day after, and that took a long time with commercials, like over 2 hours. It was very frustrating.
You can fast forward through things now. We have that technology.
Nope. It's on the app. It's on the Paramount Plus app. And if you have commercials, you have to let them go, and they're all 2 minutes, and so you're getting the full 2 hours.
Gotta love paying for a service that you still get advertised to.
We were just talking about Amazon. Like, if I pay for Amazon Prime, I should get all of the Amazon Prime's video. But this isn't Dodger baseball. I'm sorry.
Well, no, the reason we were talking about that, and let's bring in our pal Anthony Witrado, who has been globetrotting for the past couple of weeks, and it's good to see him again. But the reason we were talking about this, reason this came up, is because we were trying to introduce Greg to the wonderful, amazing 1960s television show Home Run Derby, which pit actual Major League Baseball stars from that era against each other in a home run derby at Wrigley Field in Los Angeles. Yes, that was a thing. Anthony, you remember this show? It was fantastic.
Yeah, I remember weekday afternoons every day it was on. And it was you were making the point, Marcus, that it was the stars of the league at the time that were in it. Willie Mays was in it, and Harmon Killebrew was in it, and it was a ton of guys who are now Hall of Famers who participated in this thing. And also, to your point, they probably made not great money, and so
$25 an episode
income.
Yeah, if I remember right, when you win an episode, I think you got like $1,000, and if you somehow hit 3 home runs in a row, you got like a bonus $500. So I mean, obviously,
the other amazing thing about that was, like, Wrigley Field was completely empty except for the people shooting the show, the 2 hitters, and the host.
Yes.
Yeah, there was no fans in there.
There was no crowd whatsoever. It was
so quiet. When they'd hit a ball, the ball would echo off the bat, it would go out, and then that was it.
That was it. So you'd have Gil Hodges against Willie Mays, and you'd have the host Mark Scott, and whoever was behind the camera. Like those were the only people in the ballpark on that day. Anyway,
that's cool. That's cooler now than I think it was back then.
Probably, but go find it. I'm sure you can probably find it on YouTube, and you don't have to pay for it on Prime Video. Anyway, that's not the point of why we're here. The point of why we're here is partially to tell you that the Blue Review is powered by LAX. The LAX Skylink train is currently in testing, preparing to provide a direct, fast, and free connection to the new rental car center, the airport terminals, and the LA Metro. For more information, visit lawa.org/ESPN. So the Dodgers have a night off after finishing off a series win down in San Diego. They take 2 of 3 from the Padres. Anthony, your thoughts on kind of what you saw, the offense. Is it starting to come to life? Were they just sort of taking advantage of a couple of bad teams? Your feelings on what you've seen from them for the past week or so?
Yeah, it's been better, but it's still frustrating to watch. They're still a team that wastes a ton of chances. And every team does that. Let's not act like they're the only team that frustrates their fan base when they get runners on base. But they have been better. But it just feels like they also create more opportunities than most, and they don't cash in. It feels like at the same rate sometimes. So it's not where it was, let's say, 3 weeks ago, right? But it's still not great, and probably where we would expect it to be. Kyle Tucker is still meh. Freddie Freeman has come around. Mookie Betts, we're still waiting to see what that looks like. I think, Teo is still getting dropped to 8 on occasion, all those kinds of things. Ohtani and Freeman, for the most part, are the guys who seem like they are starting to really come around now. So that's nice to see. And then on the pitching side, I think that the injury bug is back. Obviously, we all kind of knew it was coming at some point. But the positive is Roki has looked better.
Question mark?
To your point, Anthony, there's a lot that went into this. So they're not getting the runs across, but the fact is they're getting the guys on base. So the Padres obviously have a very, very good pitching staff, and Michael King was fantastic on Friday, but they also walked 5 times in that game. They got on base. They had 10 base runners against a team that doesn't really walk a lot of guys and it's a very good pitching staff. So getting runs across from some of these dudes is difficult at times. So I put a lot on the Padres pitching staff, but they were getting on base. Maybe not so much on Saturday, but they still got the 5 runs and they came back to win that game. So that was a satisfying win. But they're doing a lot of things. And even on Sunday, what day am I on? Where am I? So
Wednesday? Is that
the first game? Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I don't know what day it is anymore. On Monday, they got 10 base runners. Then they walked twice on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday they had 10. They had, I think, like 15 base runners. They walked 6 times, and they got there was a lot more going on. I don't know what day it is, Marcus. I'm just saying they're getting on base more often, and against a really good pitching staff, they were grinding out at bats and getting on base, and so that made me feel better that it wasn't just the weekend against the Angels. It was that against good pitching staff, they were still getting on. They just weren't getting that big hit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. And the 3 of us, I think, and Jeff Spiegel have all commented on it in the text chain that they're getting the chances. You'd like to see them cash in those chances a little bit more than what they have done so far. But it's good to see them sort of kind of waking up. I mean, that stretch of whatever it was, 2 weeks when, during that period, if they would go down by 2 runs, you just felt like it might be a wrap there. That seems to have sort of dissipated a little bit. You mentioned Shohei, Anthony. It looks like he's back. Does this mean we see him take more days off? Does Dave give him more days off now this season? Because he sits out for 2 days out of the lineup. He comes back and he's looking more like Shohei Ohtani again.
Yeah. He was pretty adamant about he started to get right before that happened. And it did look like that to the naked eye too. He made the tweak in his stance, and, he says that he's seeing the ball a little bit better. So I don't know. I mean, it may be coincidence. However, I am of the thinking that the mental grind of him being like a real regular starting pitcher now and not using this time as like a rehab assignment where he's going 1 inning 4 times the way they did it last year, I think is real. I think you could see it with some of the stress innings that he had against the Padres in that last outing where, he's grinding through the pitching side of it and then comes in and it feels like the break isn't very long and he's right back out there, or he gets left on deck, or he has to hit that inning. And when you're not cruising as a starting pitcher and you're having to work for those outs the way he was having to against the Padres, yeah, I think that takes a toll. It takes a mental toll on the day of, in the moment. And yeah, I can see the physical toll like really starting to weigh on you the next day. Like, I think all of that makes sense. I am all for this idea of playing it by ear with him. Like, well, there's an off day the next day, so he can do both, and okay, well, how are you feeling? And him being honest with them, it's going to take a lot of that too. But I think managing this and not putting strict restrictions on it is probably the best way to go for now.
Yeah, and I think the big part of that, as you mentioned, is sort of Shohei being open and honest with how he's feeling, because, a lot of guys, especially at that level, will always tell you that they want to go, that they're ready to, they can give you whatever they can. And the reality is just sometimes you just can't. I mean, we all know that. Getting out of bed in the morning sometimes just isn't quite the same. So it is going to be imperative on Shohei to sort of be really forthcoming that, hey, man, today I don't know that I can do both, or I'm ready to go. I can absolutely hit. So I think that part's going to be a big part of it as well. I mean, Greg, 50 games in, right? They're 31-19, 50 games into the season, just about a third of the way through this thing. Your feelings on what you've seen from this team, good, bad, otherwise?
I think it's basically the same as we've seen. I saw a stat somebody put out from like 2018 till now. They're 31-19, 31-19, 32, and 32-18. Like their numbers, it's always for the last almost 10 years, they've been 31-19 about at this point of the season over and over again. It's just consistency. And when you have a group of guys that are always on this, that have basically been with this team throughout, maybe not all from 2018, but it's been the same group. They know what it takes to win. They know what it takes to get through slumps. They know what it takes to go through the high points and the low points. So it's just consistency. And I think that what you see is what you're going to get every single year. It's just a workman-like attitude where it doesn't matter if you lose 4 games in a row or you win 4 games in a row. Things are going to just always level out at the end. And they know that they're going to get to the playoffs, and they know that's where it matters. So they look like a team that has been through the grind over and over and over again and just know what to do through it.
I know we're still, a couple months away. It's late May. We're a couple months away from the trade deadline. Anthony, the Dodgers haven't had to make a ton of huge moves the last couple of years. I mean, last year, maybe the biggest addition in hindsight was probably Alex Call when it was all said and done. If you were to start making a shopping list of things they need right now, I mean, I'd imagine it's very short, but what you're putting on a list?
Yeah, with more than 2 months still to go. Before
I mean, I know it's way out. I'm asking kind of an impossible question here. I get it.
I think the answer is always bullpen help. Mm-hmm. Like every team that's a buyer will always be interested in bullpen help. Now you're going to overpay for that bullpen help, and we know that Friedman's regime does not like to do that. And if they really, I think by that time they're going to either have or know when Edwin Diaz is coming back, and they may treat that as their acquisition. The bullpen's been pretty good actually. It's just a matter of like always having more arms, and so I think that would be the probably at the top of the list right now. Now, hey, if Tyler Glasnow doesn't come back and Blake Snell doesn't come back, and all of a sudden the starting rotation starts to look iffy, then maybe you look at that market. But yeah, this far out, I would just say the easy answer is probably more help at the back end of the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always going to kind of go that way. I do know that because Greg and I talked about this yesterday, Anthony. Your feelings on Will Klein getting 9th innings the last couple of days, like it's been surprising, right?
It's been surprising because it's been Will Klein and he's taken this step up. Not surprising in that they're using different guys. Like we saw Tanner Scott, I think, warming up in the 6th inning against San Diego, one of those games, like or for the 6th inning. I'm good with that. Like if they look ahead and they say, you know what, this might end up being the highest leverage situation we face, put our best guy in there. I'm good with that. And I've always believed in the idea of a closer is better in theory than it is in reality. We've seen too many closers standing in the bullpen with their hands on their hips while their team blows a game because of this kind of thinking. And so I'm fine with Dave doing that kind of thing. The surprise for the Will Klein thing is just that it's Will Klein. He's taken this I don't want to say resurgence, but he's taken this next step in his evolution and his progression and development to be a guy that they trust in that kind of role. And you know what? He's pretty much delivered. And so you good for him. And maybe they found another guy. They've harnessed the control of that fastball, much like another guy who throws the ball very hard. When he throws strikes, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. It's amazing how they just find these guys and develop them into things. And again, this time last year, nobody knew who Will Klein was. He goes out and has a heroic performance in Game 3 of the World Series. And now he's everybody's favorite ginger coming out of the bullpen there for the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's been absolutely incredible to watch. Looking at the pitching staff, though, as a whole, Greg, I mean, we look through this rotation. Obviously, we're still waiting for Tyler Glasnow to come back. Who knows when that's going to be? Blake Snell, just recently had surgery, is sort of rehabbing. We're hoping that's going to go soon. What does this rotation look like? I mean, we know the guys at the front end. Is there enough sort of there in the back end? Do we see Eric Lauer? Can Emmett Sheehan figure it out? I mean, your thoughts on this rotation right now?
Yeah, so it's funny because you're talking about all the good things and what it's going to be at the trade deadline, and the bullpen has a 29-game scoreless inning or 29-inning scoreless streak going on right now, so that part is looking great, and the hitting is starting to come around. So that part, the starting pitching is really, really good. As we know, we have a bunch of number one starters, but the back end is starting to look a little, is this the Achilles heel at the moment? It moves around. Like it was the offense that was the Achilles heel, then it was like it was never really the bullpen, and the pitching staff can be. Between Emmett Sheehan, Roki Sasaki, and now Eric Lauer and Justin Wrobleski, you're looking at the guys in the back and say, can these guys get us to the finish line or get us to the point when Glasnow and Snell come back? I trust that Wrobleski can. He's pitching tonight, and I trust that he can. He just gets outs. He has that dog in him, that especially for the beginning of the season, that he's an all-star at this moment right now. But mostly Emmett Sheehan kind of scares me a little bit. I don't know what I'm going to get from him from game in and game out. I don't know if he's going to be giving me his 96-mile-per-hour fastball and pinpointing it, or he's going to be giving me the 92-mile-an-hour fastballs that's going to get hit out for a home run. And you throw those kind of pitches to a guy like Manny Machado, you're going to get smacked around a little bit, right? Especially middle. And then when it comes to Eric Lauer, we've seen what Eric Lauer is right now, and Eric Lauer has been bad. I don't know what he's going to do when he gets here. He's blaming the fact of using openers in Toronto, but we'll see what it looks like, because him coming in is going to be an interesting case of, can he be a stabilizer, or is he going to be a fire starter? I don't know what he's going to be. We haven't seen it yet. So I think he's starting on Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it was Tuesday that I saw for Lauer. So that's the only, I'm not worried about the starting pitching, but if I had to, that would be and I didn't even mention Roki Sasaki, because he's actually kind of gotten better and better and better. And I do want to see what he looks like against Milwaukee, because that's a true test.
Yeah, that's going to be a test. It's one thing, to go out and shut down the San Francisco Giants, who are just awful offensively. It's another thing to try to do that against a Milwaukee team, especially one that's hot and just finished sweeping the Cubs at Wrigley Field, the Chicago Wrigley Field, not the Los Angeles Wrigley Field. I have a thought there are probably fans in the stands for that one. Other injury news, you guys know Tommy Edman is on his way back. So, Anthony, does this mean that Ha-Seong Kim's days in Los Angeles are numbered, or is it Santiago Espinal? Who's the odd man out?
Yeah, I think right now it's probably going to be Espinal. I think Kim has played too well for them to make that call and put him down. And Espinal just hasn't done much, and they're not using him a lot. And I think they would rather have a guy who's going to be able to play more regularly in Kim, because I think also they're going to be probably they might slow roll Edman out. I don't think he's going to start 6 days a week or anything like that right when he comes back. So, I think it's probably Espinal. Kike Hernandez might also come back on Monday, which also would push Espinal out first.
I didn't even think about Kike coming back, because he's very close to coming back too, which again gives you more depth, sort of moves pieces around. But it does create a squeeze on the roster.
So if Kike comes back and then Espinal goes, and then Edman comes back, then Ha-Seong Kim goes.
That might be then when Kim goes. Yeah.
So either way, it does seem like their days are sort of short, because Edman looks like he's getting close to coming back. Kike very close to coming back as well. So we will see. Big series coming up this weekend against the Milwaukee Brewers. Right now, I think anytime you're staring down the barrel of the NL Central, seems like a big deal. The Brewers just a game and a half behind the Dodgers in terms of the standings. They're 29-18. I asked you this last weekend, Greg, and you said it didn't really mean much. But how much of a measuring stick is this? I know the Dodgers beat them pretty soundly last year in the playoffs. It is a new year. Is this Is this more of a measuring stick for the Brewers to see where they are? Is this a Dodger thing to see how they're playing? How are you feeling about this series?
I think it is both of them. I think it is a little bit more of a measuring stick. I don't think it's going to matter as much when it comes to the playoffs, but it's still going to be something that, if I'm correct, I think the Brewers won the series against the Dodgers last year.
I think 6-0.
Yeah, I thought
I did sweep. Yeah.
So it does. Regular season matchups for when it comes to these two teams, so they're always at the top. They're always in the playoffs. They're like you see them all the time. The same two teams. The regular season's matchups don't really matter as much, but it does matter for how you feel, like a measuring stick, as you're talking about. And it is for both. That you're seeing this is the matchup of the month. You wanted to see Brewers the best. They have the same run differential unless the Brewers played last night, which I didn't check that out. But it was plus 198, plus 198 or 98, 198. God, I'm stupid. Plus, it was close, but it's early. My coffee isn't fully kicked in, but the run differential is still both very high. They have a great pitching staff as well. So Anthony's worry about getting guys in runners in scoring position, getting guys around, probably not going to happen as often as we'd like to see it in this series. So it's more so about, do we see them getting on base still and continuing to hit the ball well? Is Freddie still going to use a little bit more of an uppercut swing to get the ball in the air? Are the guys going to start grounding into double plays? That's what the measuring stick of what I want to see against a good team. Can they keep it close? Can they use that playoff atmosphere that they just saw with Padres and take it to the Brewers as well? I just think this is going to be a good, fun matchup, but it's not going to be your best pitchers either. Like it's Wrobleski, and it's going to be probably in the Roki.
It's Roki, and then Yama actually is scheduled to start Game 3. So.
But no Mizorowski, so we don't see their top pitcher.
I was going to ask, is it good or bad? I mean, I guess as a fan, I'm partially sad they're not going to see Mizorowski, but also I don't want to sit there and watch them strike out 12 times.
Right, exactly. So it's not going to be exactly what you'd see later on, but the fact is, you do want to see them do the things well they've been doing over the last week and a half.
Yeah, I don't know. Are you sad, Anthony, that they missed Mizorowski this weekend?
I wouldn't say I'm sad, but you give a veteran team like this, enough looks at a guy, Mason Miller, they're going to find a way to grind out at bats later. And, I think that if you can get as many looks as you can at a guy like Mizorowski, if you have to face him in October, it doesn't hurt you. It doesn't hurt you. And so I'd rather watch them strike out 12 times in May than I would in October.
That's fair. Absolutely fair. I do see in the chat people warning David Vassay to stay away from the slide in Milwaukee. He's never going to live that down. That's going to be his legacy.
Also, in the chat, also Justin Lamas, and I was just kind of responding to it a little bit, but said that we went 0-6 in Milwaukee in the regular season last year. Yeah, like we said, we could have gotten home field advantage throughout the playoffs with a half decent record versus Milwaukee and Anaheim last year. Absolutely true. We got swept by both, but did it matter?
In the end, no. Although it would have been, I guess, better to have Game 7 on your own field in the World Series as opposed to having to play in Rogers Center. But in the end, no.
I wouldn't change a damn thing.
No, neither would I. And also, I think it actually helped them because they were struggling in August and started to really pick it up in September. But it helped them to keep playing through. And the rest versus rust argument is something that I don't really put too much stock in because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the rest hurt, sometimes it doesn't. So it really depends on the team and what they were going through at the time, and what I think they needed to play Cincinnati. I think they needed to have those games and keep playing through.
Yeah, I think last year they needed to keep playing. I thought 2024 they needed the time off because they were really hurting and they really needed that rest. They were overworked. So yeah, it just
if we're projecting out things like Mizorowski in the trade deadline, I'll take the rest this October if they can get it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's an older ball club. I mean, the oldest I think starting lineup in Major League Baseball.
Let's say too, Marcus, like this very easily could have happened against the Reds, with Hunter Green and the way he was throwing the ball last year. But like, let's say they face, they just faced Michael King. Let's say they face a Michael King type or Michael King. And he shuts him down for game one of that short best of 3 series. And all of a sudden you're down 1-0 in that. And now you're up against it immediately.
Yeah.
And you're 3 hours into your postseason and you're on the brink of elimination. That's why you want to keep away from that game. And I think there is something to be said about Greg's point about maybe they needed that red series to really get that motor turned on quicker. But if we have our choice here, it's take the bye. Have a best record and one of the 2 best records, get the bye, let the other teams battle it out in that best of 3, and then get yourself going.
Yeah, and get going again. Absolutely. Well, it gets going tonight, 4:40 Pacific time. I believe that game's on Apple TV. Early game. I believe it's on Apple TV, if I'm not mistaken. It'll be the Dodgers and the Brewers. Justin Wrobleski going against Logan Henderson. We'll be back with you on Tuesday. No show on Monday because it's a holiday, so we'll talk to you about it then. But Anthony, appreciate you jumping back in with us this morning. We'll see you again next week. Everybody else, stick around for the Sedano and Cap morning extravaganza. And that'll do it for this edition of the Blue Review. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to Tim for production assistance. For Anthony, for Greg, I'm Marcus. It's been the Blue Review presented by LAX. See you Tuesday morning at 6:30 to 6:55 here on the ESPN LA YouTube channel. See you.
See ya.